Hello and good day. Today is December the 8th. I believe today is the Feast of the Immaculate Conception for Roman Catholicism. And in 2 days, it will be Hanukkah. I am mentioning the beginning of Hanukkah. I'm mentioning that because we are about to enter in, not in this unit, but the next unit, enter into a unit on Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, the world's three of the world's great religions and their contribution to art. But today we're still talking about Rome. If you notice just above me there's a picture of my son at a Roman bath. And yeah, I'm going to keep flooding you with these because they play an integral part in your next test. So let's get down to business. And I talked a whole lot yesterday. I promise not to talk as much today. So yeah, let us begin, shall we, here? Yes. So now we're talking about what Rome was like what the Romans were like as a society, what sort of people made up the greatest empire that the world had ever seen to that point. And it's true. I mean, the Romans were the greatest civilization the world had ever seen to that point. Well, the greatest Western civilization. The Chinese can also make a statement for their civilization. However, Chinese civilization did not migrate to the West as much. But yes, Roman civilization. And to be honest, none of the Chinese dynasties, I hate that, none of these Chinese dynasties lasted 2,000 years, as did the Roman dynasty. Uh, but anyway, so to begin with, you have to remember that Rome enslaved 1/3 of their own population. Well, it wasn't their population. They enslaved anybody they could get their hands on. 1/3. Uh, Two, I mean, if you were a Roman citizen, things were okay for you, but there were no guarantees. I mean, like today in this country, it'd be very difficult for a person to die of starvation. In Rome, starvation happened. Rome, you remember, even in a city of 1 million people, there was no police force. I mean, think about that. I mean, if you were wealthy, you could have your own personal guards, and that's what most people did. But if you were not wealthy, then, you had to be very careful. Because as time went on in Rome, more and more people became homeless. They lost their farms. They went to Rome looking for jobs that weren't there. And they became part of what the Roman elite referred to as the mob. And the mob was not like organized crime. The mob was basically what we'd call homeless. And they roamed the streets, wandered the streets of Rome, looking for employment, which they wouldn't find, but they're looking for food, entertainment. And they were, even the emperors had to they couldn't control them. There was this large, uncontrollable mass. And so oftentimes, as we'll talk about later on, the Roman emperors found that the best way to placate, that means to please, to keep them kind of settled down, the mob was through bread and games. And that means having the gladiatorial combat games and just simply giving out bread to appease these people. And so, yeah, that was a part of it. But the Romans were also, they felt, were very full of themselves, and they felt that their society, and rightfully so, was the highest level of society that the world had ever seen to that point. And yeah, so they were very confident about themselves. How do they feel about non-Romans? Non-Romans were barbarians. Yes, barbarians. And that's how, and Rome liked to build large roads and aqueducts and other works of engineering marvel to impress the non-Romans. And they were impressive. I mean, come on. Cities with running water, people who took baths, libraries, highways, I mean, other people's loved Roman stuff, but they hated the Romans. Why? Because the Romans were jerks. Remember that you don't rule an empire that covers all of Europe and North Africa and the Middle East. You don't rule an empire like that by being nice to other people. At some point in time, you have to hit somebody, or in the Romans' case, crucify them, which they did quite often. Yeah, the Romans are cruel and didn't think a thing about being cruel. I mean, remember, you're talking about a society that amuses itself by watching animals kill each other, or humans kill each other, or humans kill animals, and vice versa. The paterfamilias, like our good friend Ulysses Vic Everett McGill. Yeah, Ulysses Everett McGill said the paterfamilias is the father of the family. What did it mean to be exposed? It meant to be without family, without support. How did women's rights compare between ancient Rome and ancient Greece? The Romans were more progressive with their women. The Athenians, for all of their intelligence, they thought that women were just, second class citizens, weren't supposed to appear in public. Now, Roman numeral 8, Pompeii. The city of Pompeii. South of Rome, about 100 miles, lie the city of Pompeii. It was a beautiful city, Roman city, only it had the misfortune of sitting right under Mount Vesuvius. And Mount Vesuvius one day just decided to explode. And because of that, the city of Pompeii was literally buried in 25 feet of ash. And everything in the city of Pompeii, living and unliving, was frozen in time. I mean, what happened was, you had people running around or people walking around, and suddenly they're covered in ash and they suffocated and died. And then here's the thing, their bodies basically decayed and evaporated within the ash, leaving casts, leaving open spaces. And the city of Pompeii was not discovered for another 1,500 years. And when they did discover it, they had the wherewithal to, as they excavated it, they took these hollow spaces, these moles of human beings, and they filled them with plaster, pumped plaster into them, so they could see what they looked like. And sure enough, I mean, it was amazing. There was one dog, for example, that had a piece of bread in its mouth that it had stolen. And you could even see the indentations where the bread had raisins in it. And, that was incredible. And the rooms and the Roman art was preserved, you know, because it was covered and preserved in ash. And they cleaned out the ash, and there they are. And they found Roman homes with atriums. An atrium is an open space. I may have one of those pictures there, and no, I don't. That's something else I was looking at. Yeah, no, those are hippodromes. Yeah, that's hippodrome. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, they built these an atrium. What's an atrium? An atrium was another Roman innovation. An atrium was a part of a wealthy Roman's home. Now remember, they lived in Rome. It was a crowded city. It had 1 million people, and the Romans, of course, wanted the security of the home, but they also wanted uh, the pleasure of the outdoors. And so what they did, they built a home with walls, and inside the home they had an open space in the ceiling so that the sun could come down and through the roof and provide, you know, provide comfort, provide basically getting away from that feeling that you're in the middle of a big city that was crowded and people running up and down the streets and just making you nuts. And so, yeah, an atrium, an opening. In fact, let's go back and come on. Mm-hmm. And there it is. I knew I was looking for it. Atrium. It would look like that. You see this? Here's the opening, and here's, you would have an open space within your home that opened to the outdoors. And that's in a Roman building. Now there are other places today that have atriums. In fact, any building that has a large open space in the lobby, that large open space is called the atrium. And that's a Roman contribution. Yes. And so get back to me. There it is. Ah, yes. Another invention of the Romans were mosaics. And yes, we know again that mosaics are works of art that are works of art, pictures, works of art, mosaics. There we go. My computer's going very slow today. It's being really cantankerous. This is a mosaic, a work of art that is done by, placing pieces, in this case, of tile. Other times they use glass or something else to create a picture. Here is another one. Mosaic. These are real Roman mosaics that I found at the Art Institute of Chicago. This one, on the other hand, is Byzantine, but it's a mosaic. We'll talk about the Byzantine Empire later, okay? So, and sculptured busts that became an integral part of Roman art. Ah, yes, talking about the mob, once again, give them bread and games. When we watch the film Gladiator, hopefully I'll be able to send you that part where in the, there are 3 gladiatorial combats that you see in the film Gladiator. The first one is Maximus and his crew versus these guys on chariots, or women actually, on chariots. The second one is Maximus versus Titus of Gaul. And before that, you have, these big carts were brought in, and they're throwing bread up into the crowd. So, part A. Romans considered that lavish spectacles and public entertainment were a right of each citizen of the Republic and later on of the Roman Empire. And I'm looking at the clock because I'm about to finish. Whether it be the horse races of the Hippodrome, which could be violent with their crashes, to the bloody violent gladiatorial combat of the Colosseum, to plays and theatrical performances, Romans loved the spectacle. Paid for largely with captured treasure from the ever-expanding Roman conquest, Rome exploded to a city of well over 1 million inhabitants in a day when the Earth's population was well under 500 million. So 1 million people lived in Rome, but the entire Earth only had less than 500 million. And so why don't we stop there with part C, and we'll pick up talking about Roman theater tomorrow. Actually, not tomorrow. We'll pick up and talk about it Thursday. With that, goodbye.